Hi there. During this lesson, we're going to learn about prepositions of place. Now let's take a look at how and when you can use them. Here we have Jessica, and this is a tube. Here we go. I'm now putting Jessica onto the tube. So she's now on the tube. Well, it makes a change from her being on the table, doesn't it? Now I'm taking her off the tube. Now she's standing at the tube. Maybe she's waiting for a bus. Now what's Jessica doing? She's climbing up the tube. And now she's climbing down it. Next, she's leaning against the tube. The tube, beg your pardon. Now, she's walking along the tube. Either like this or along the tube. Now, she's underneath the tube. You can also say under, but underneath means that someone or something is exactly underneath another object or person with contact. This would be under, and that's underneath. Now, she's going into the tube. And now, hello, she's coming out of the tube. Now, she's sliding through the tunnel. Whee! We say through because we're talking about an enclosed space. But if we're talking about an open space, then you need to say she's going across the tube. You can also say she's crossing over the tube from one side to another. Now, she's flying over the tube. Strictly speaking, you can only use the word over when movement is involved. Otherwise, you have to use the word above. Now, she's hovering above the tube, which means that she's floating in the air in a position which is directly above the tube, but without any physical contact. Now, she's hovering below the tube, which means that she's lower than the level of the tube, which can mean anywhere in this area, but without any physical contact. Now, she's on top of the tube, because she's up in a position which is higher than me in the moment which I'm speaking. Now, she's at the bottom of the tube, because she's at the lowest point of it. Now where's Jessica? She's inside the tube. We say inside as opposed to just in to emphasize the fact that something or someone is inside a closed or semi-closed space as opposed to being outside. That's right, she's now outside the tube. Now, Jessica is standing in front of the tube. In front of. And now, she's standing behind the tube. Now, she's opposite my finger. Opposite has a similar meaning to in front of, but it normally means that two or more objects are divided by something like a road or a river. There could be a road or river in the middle here. Opposite. Between. Now she's between the tube and my hand. Now she's among more than two objects, my hands, the tube, and the tablet. Now she's sitting beside, next to, or by the tube. All of these prepositions are almost identical in meaning. Now she's near the tube. The word near isn't as specific as the other prepositions, as it can mean that an object or person is in the vicinity, but without specifying in what position. This is all near. Now, Jessica is walking past the tube. Now, she's going to the toilet. Psst. Now, she's coming back from the toilet. Ah. Looks like she really needed that. Now we have. Now, she's standing on your left-hand side of the tube, and now she's standing on the right-hand side of it. That's your left-hand side and your right-hand side, not mine. We add the word hand when talking about objects or people which are in a stationary position to avoid the risk of any confusion with the word right, which can also mean correct. Also left, which can also mean there's something remained or something left by someone somewhere. When there's movement involved, then we can say turn left or walk to your right. And we don't need to add the word hand because actions can't really be confused with the word right in the context in which it means correct. Here's another example of why we need to use left hand and right hand as opposed to just left and right. Let me show you. So, here are two bins. The one on your left hand side is for plastic, and the one on your right hand side is for paper. Then, if I tell you to throw an imaginary plastic bottle into the right bin, what would you do? Whatever you do, you would be right. Because what I should have said was throw the plastic bottle into the right bin, which is the one on your left-hand side. The left-hand side. So the right bin can either mean the correct bin or the bin on the right-hand side. So that's why we add the word right. Right? Then if I say another example. Let's say that this is your left and this is your right. If I say there's a bottle of beer left on the bar, it could mean two different things. One, after all the beer that has been drunk until this point, one bottle of beer has remained on the bar. Or two, on the left-hand side of the bar, there's a bottle of beer. So to avoid any confusion, that's why we say on the left-hand side when describing the position of a person or an object, or on the right hand side. Now, let's talk about towards, forwards, backwards, upwards, and downwards. All of these words can be used when talking about people or objects, whether movement is involved or not. For example, Jessica is facing towards me. This means that her face is looking towards the direction of my position. Now, move the tube. Now she's walking towards me. This means that she is walking towards the direction of my position. Now, she's facing forwards, backwards, upwards, facing upwards, and facing downwards to see what's on the table. And she's also facing sideways to her left, sideways to your right, to her right, sideways to your left, and sideways to your right. Now, Jessica's going to jump over the tube. Here she goes. And now she's going to hop over the tube, which means hopping is like jumping but with just one leg. Up. Now she's going to step over the tube, even though her legs are a bit too short. Anyway, stepping is like walking over the tube without touching it with your feet. So it would be like this. Dum dum. To step over something is to do this action. Not jump over, but step over. Finally, Jessica is walking around the tube because she's lost and she can't remember where she's going. So, now that you know about prepositions of place and direction, try finding some new friends on Go Speak English and ask them, why is a book always on the table? And that's the end of this lesson. Now you can see if you've understood the video and do the test on Go Speak English. You can also watch many other English video lessons on Go Speak English. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.